Well, good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to this webinar this evening, where a panel is being convened to present to you around our response to the Kennedy report, with which you're familiar. And I'm delighted to hear that we have more than 200 attendees signed up to the webinar this evening. This is one of a series of webinars that you can access through our website. And any of your friends and colleagues who are not able to join this webinar live this evening will be able to access this from the website in due course. We want to make this as interactive as we possibly can, so please do ask questions, and if you put those in the chat box as we're going along, then we will try to get through as many questions as we possibly can before we finish. I'm delighted to be joined this evening by Nuha Yassin, who is a fellow council member here at the Royal College of Surgeons of England. She is a colorectal surgeon from Wolverhampton and Director of Inclusivity and Diversity for the Association of Surgeons of Great Britain and Ireland. And also delighted to be joined by Corinne Bailey-Bearfield, who is the Diversity and Inclusion Programme Manager here at the College and has joined us in the last few months. And I think her appointment in itself is recognition of the importance that we attach to this work. So I'm going to hand over to Corinne now, who's going to give you a presentation to update you on where we are. So Corinne, over to you, please.
Thank you, Tim. I think if we can just get the slides up, Jane. Okay, I think you need to go back a few slides. There we go. So hi everyone, my name is Corinne and I am the new, as Tim said, the new Diversity and Inclusion Programme Manager here at the Royal College of Surgeons of England. People often ask me, what does my job mean and what does diversity, equity and inclusion mean? Next slide, please. I find that within organisations, they often embark on diversity, equity and inclusion projects with the best intentions in order to try and make things better without first understanding or having any kind of consensus about what they are working towards. And I think it's really important to have a shared sense of agreement on what we mean by this, as this really defines the work that we're doing moving forwards. So what do we at the college mean by diversity, inclusion and belonging, and why does that even matter? So for us, diversity is about who is in the room. Inclusion is about inviting that contribution, and belonging is about creating for everybody a sense of welcome and being valued, not despite their diversity and not solely because of it either. Diversity, inclusion and belonging matter because we know that learning multiplies when it takes place in groups of people who are different. We learn from difference, and continuous learning is really key to any profession. Next slide, please. So how did we get here? In September 2021, we launched our 16-point action plan, and this was a direct response to the challenges that were laid out in the Kennedy Review published earlier this year, which set out to determine the degree to which the leadership of the surgical profession is or is not representative of the wider surgical community. It sought to highlight the specific impacts of any lack of representation in the college's leadership on the profession and society, and to identify barriers to the leadership of the profession's being or becoming representative of the wider profession, but also to assess the effectiveness of any existing programmes or initiatives by the college designed to increase diversity. The review sought to make recommendations for the future so that professional leadership can increase its diversity in a meaningful way and within a reasonable timeframe and in line with the review's findings. Next slide, please. So why is this action plan needed? Well, in short, and as our vision states, we want to see excellent surgical care for everyone. And the only way that we can achieve our vision is by enabling all of our members and staff in all their diversity to deliver excellence in everything that you do. We also want to ensure that we are living our values. Next slide, please. We want to ensure that we're living our values through the actions that are laid out in the plan. We know that collaboration, the review and the action plan were done in collaboration with colleagues and members. Respect, we know that this is something that we have to earn from all of you and is something that we will demonstrate in our actions moving forward. Excellence, which we will only achieve as a college if we listen, learn, and share experiences from across the surgical community and apply this into practice. This action plan provides both an update on progress against these commitments and looks forward to our future goals and milestones. In publishing this plan, we want to share our progress and challenges and begin to build that confidence of our members and the wider profession and those hoping to enter the profession, and really demonstrate to you all that being a diverse, equitable and inclusive organisation is a key priority for the college. Next slide, please. So when we talk about the action plan and the 16 recommendations, we can break them down into 5 distinct areas of strategic focus. The first is about embracing diversity. So this links with the first recommendation and seeks to address the issues which have been identified around a sense of not belonging among our members, a lack of opportunity for advancement within the profession, and a need to really reflect the diversity of the wider medical profession. So what are we going to do about it? We will, or rather we have already, committed to the vision and put diversity at the heart of our new strategy, which you can find on our website, and I'd really encourage you all to go and read. We will invest resources, leadership, time and energy into the transformational change that we need to make to ensure that we deliver on the Kennedy Review and much more. Next slide, please. The next area of focus is about leading our profession and links with 8 of the recommendations in the action plan. Now, the Kennedy report really identified some key issues that needed to be addressed, and this includes, but isn't limited to, a lack of diversity within the leadership space, and particularly within the makeup of council, a need to create greater ties with our SAS colleagues, a lack of support for parents, and a need to build on the college's existing strengths. In order to address this, we will commit to the reform target and challenge all forms of discrimination. We will advocate on behalf of working parents and deliver initiatives that are focused on the UN Sustainable Development Goals and really build on our position as the leading voice for the surgical profession in the UK and advancing surgical care globally. Next slide, please. Improving practice links to recommendations 9 and 10 of the action plan and seeks to address issues around differential attainment and a need for innovation and change to ensure the future of surgery. Through the recommendations, we will facilitate research, enable world-leading surgical trials, and undertake high-quality surgical audits to create knowledge and promote evidence-based practice, whilst also delivering a study on differential attainment in surgical exams. Next slide, please. Now, engaging our members links to recommendations 11 and 13, which really focuses on the issues identified around the lack of engagement and support for our members and a real need to further develop the attitudes and behaviours of the surgical community. In order to address this, we will focus on supporting diverse grassroots medical organisations with seed funding and support the development of mentoring programmes as a core surgical skill and as part of the membership package, which will support key points in the career pathway, and in particular for newly appointed consultants and SAS surgeons. Next slide, please. Transforming our college links to recommendations 14, 15 and 16 and is more than just about the physical and digital spaces that we inhabit, it's about our people as well. The report identified a lack of morale among staff and a real need for data to support our strategic aims, training and soft skills for all of our people, and to reflect the diversity of our membership throughout the building. And we will do this by ensuring that our new building is a very welcoming professional home for all of our members, whether you're based in the UK or overseas. We will clearly promote diversity within our building, within the portraiture and publications. We will also become a digital-first organisation, ensuring that we are building up our business intelligence and data capabilities and putting our members at the heart of our digital strategy. And we will improve the engagement and morale of our staff and people, supporting and developing them to reach their potential through developing training packages whilst creating a really strong and diverse culture. Next slide, please. Looking ahead to the future, so what's next? We know that we need to do more, but as with all things, we have to start somewhere, and this action plan gives us the perfect starting point for a brave and frankly bold new future for the college. What we're looking at is a real cultural shift that will take place over 2 presidential terms. We are already going beyond the recommendations and are collaborating with colleagues across the college to develop an LGBTQ strategy. And we promise to report to you every 6 months on progress. But we can't do this alone. And as the saying goes, it takes a village. And in this case, the village is all of you. We know that people stay connected to organisations that mean something to them. So I really, really hope that you will stay connected with us on this journey. Call us out, hold us to account, but be gentle, so that together we really can change the face of surgery. Thank you. I'm going to hand back over to Tim now.
Corinne, thank you very much for that presentation. And I'm then going to hand over to Jane, actually, who's going to manage the questions for us. So Jane, do we have any questions coming in yet that you'd like us to address?
Hi Tim, hi Nuha. I thought we would start off by asking both of you how you felt when you first read the Kennedy report, because I know that the initial report made for some quite challenging reading, I would say, as a member of staff. So I'd be very interested to hear how you guys felt as clinicians and members of the governance of the college.
Thanks, Jane. Perhaps I can take that first. I think, as you've said, it made extremely uncomfortable reading, and certainly some of the anecdotes that appear in the report are truly shocking and make very, very difficult reading. But they are people's lived experience. I think we have to be honest about that. I'm sure it was extremely difficult for those individuals to have to tell their stories, but the most important thing is that we listen to that. And then we can start to address it. And we know that since the report has been published, we've had a large number of surgeons get in contact with us. And I'm afraid that the anecdotes and stories that we hear are clearly widespread. We have to acknowledge that. And once we've done that, that puts us in a position to start to deal with them. And it's important that we recognize that there's a need to change the culture. And I think that the 2 words that come out of the report for me are inclusivity and belonging. And it's very important that we make surgery a welcoming place for everybody from whatever their background might be. Most of us in surgery have had a fantastic career, and we want everybody to feel the same about surgery, but we have to ensure that there's a sense of belonging. I think at the college we certainly recognise that. And the college is not the council of the college. It's not even our fantastic new building here in Lincoln's Inn Fields where I am this evening. The college is all its members, and we have to work together to ensure that people recognise that and that we can encourage and welcome people into it. So whilst it was difficult reading, I think it's been a great impetus for some of the work we started doing. We recognise that we can't do that on our own, and we want to involve as many people as possible in that process. Nuha, how about you?
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Jane and Corinne, for the fantastic presentation. I think my involvement was before I became a council member, and as part of the ASGBI, the Kennedy review contacted all the surgical societies, and our ex-president of the ASGBI, Ian Anderson, communicated with the rest of the exec asking for feedback with regards to how we feel about diversity in surgery in general, but you know, the ASGBI is over 100 years old, so it represents general surgery and beyond. So the contribution started then, before reading the Kennedy report, into just figuring out, with regards to the ASGBI membership, if I may plug in their name a few times, and that's how it started, to see how our own members have felt with regards to diversity and inclusion in surgery, and reading those comments and formulating the report along with colleagues on the exec, and feeding back to Professor Anderson was quite painful, not just difficult to read, but it was quite painful because it's people's lived experiences. And then when you see the collated report altogether in the Kennedy review, it's personal. It's not just other people's lived experiences, it's people you know. So the most important thing is to recognize that we can't be what we can't see, and as a personal experience for me, I wouldn't have joined surgery as a house officer had I not seen somebody who looked like me, who was from a similar background, and I thought that they could do it. And I would thank that lady forevermore. I don't know what she's up to these days, just for showing me that she can be a female Muslim hijab wearing surgeon who was good at what she did. Kennedy was personal, and I think even if we don't know what people are going through, just reading those reports makes us want to make a difference and change for the present and the future, so that there is a sense of belonging, and so that people feel that the college represents them. And not just the college, any surgical society. This is not just a Royal College of Surgeons of England issue. This is a global issue, and we need to start changing somewhere. So I'm very grateful that actually Tim Mitchell invited me to be part of the core team for implementing the Kennedy review and the action plan for that, because hopefully we can together make a difference regardless of our affiliations or backgrounds. Back to you, Jane.
Questions are coming through thick and fast, so bear with me. So if I look for the audience, if I look like I'm not paying attention, I'm just trying to read all your excellent questions and make sure I don't miss anything important. If we don't get through everything tonight, just as a little heads up, we will try and answer as many of the questions either via social media or sort of through direct messaging or other sort of communications. So you're not, if we don't get to you, we won't be ignoring you. I promise we will get to you when we can. But thank you all for your fantastic questions, and brace yourself. We've got some good ones. I'm going to start by how do you feel the college will address the ongoing poor experience faced by female surgeons within the workplace? What levers do you envisage the college may use going forward? And do you feel that something like a code of conduct for membership should exist, where mistreatment of fellow colleagues may result in expulsion from services of the college? Any thoughts?
I'll take that one. I think the first thing that one has to say is that one has to acknowledge that there are behaviours in the workplace that are not acceptable, and it's beholden upon all of us to call out those behaviours where we see them. And of course, it is difficult. The college doesn't have complete control over what happens in the workplace. We have to work with other organisations. One of the things that we found following the publication of the Kennedy report and the publicity around that in our developing action plan is that there have been a number of organisations who have been very keen to collaborate with us, and we've been very keen to develop that collaboration. So it really is about changing the culture, and we all have a responsibility in that. There are things that are happening that are well known to people in the workplace, but they're not always challenged. And whilst we can make public statements and the college can take a stance on these things, it's for all of us in the workplace to challenge those behaviours that are unacceptable and to steer people in the right direction. Having said that, I do believe that a lot of the behaviours that we see are at least in part based upon ignorance. And I think we need to do that in a supportive way and, as it were, educate people to behave appropriately. So I think it is a challenge. We've identified some problems. We're trying to develop strategies that will allow us to deal with them, but very much working with other people to try to achieve that. Niha, what's your view?
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you, Tim. And yes, I am a woman, but I've got so many other aspects to me that make me the diverse person that I am sitting before you today. I think women do face a lot of issues at work, and I think that people need to feel empowered and need to feel that their voice is not silenced. They need to be given that voice back. And I think we need to also flatten the hierarchy at work and make sure that everybody's voice is heard. There have been recent presentations during the Women in Surgery conference, and a quote, if I may, from Simon Fleming, and you know, he was trying to, as a man, trying to talk about who's an ally and who's an advocate. You don't have to be a woman to support other women. You can be a man who supports women by ensuring that they are supported at work, by ensuring that their voice is heard, and by ensuring that we do flatten that hierarchy and that we do listen to everyone and make sure that they feel as an equal on the table rather than as a subordinate or as a junior, if I can use that term. So I think in order to be able to deal with any issues at all, first of all, we need to know about them. So we need to listen to each other first, and the college or any other association or even NHS Trust need to have an open door policy, and they need to welcome people in and listen to their issues, but then move to the next step with regards to how to deal with those issues, and also creating support groups within trusts and within organizations. So it's the start is to listen, and we've got a lot of work to do.
Fabulous, thank you both. Similar, I mean, there's a lot of common themes obviously tonight with the report and the action plan. So the Kennedy report was certainly important and much needed, but as a trainee, I'm not sure how much of it looks to create change on the shop floor. What is being done to support and improve trainees' experience at present, so that trainees are not afraid to speak up and report behaviours without feeling vilified? The GMC training survey does not really allow for anonymity. Oh, I can't say that word. Sorry, anonymity and Thank you. When reporting issues, and doesn't allow for anonymity when reporting issues. I'll finish there before I embarrass myself.
Yeah, why don't you kick off this time?
So Jane, don't worry, English is not my first language, and I can't say that word either, but I'll have a go at it. So I think, you know, what we need to understand is the trainees of today are the surgeons of the future, and it's very important to give everybody a voice, regardless of their grade or, you know, stage of training, whether they're a trainee or an SAS grade. Everybody are equal when it comes to voicing concerns. So with regards to the review, there are lots of issues that are global issues. They don't actually specify whether they are to consultants or otherwise. They are for the whole surgical workforce. Changes on the shop floor start with changing ourselves first. How we need to all look in the mirror and see where we can stamp down microaggressions, where we can support each other and our colleagues at all levels, and shape the new, you know, the new way we want to train people and the new way we would like the surgical workforce to be more inclusive. So I think with regards to anonymity, you know, that there is a ladder of how to raise concerns, but one has to go with who they're comfortable with. And if one needs to skip a step in the ladder, then so be it. The action plan is global. It doesn't specify trainees, but we have got areas for SAS grades. We've got parents in surgery. We've got less than full-time training, women in surgery, and actually it's 16 points for a reason, because it's quite a diverse group, and we need to be able to ensure that we address every and each one of those aspects. And what are your thoughts, Tim?
Well, we know that it's particularly tough for people in training, and of course COVID hasn't helped that at all with the pressures it's put on the service. A lot of trainees being redeployed to parts of the hospital with which they're not entirely familiar, and the massive impact it's had upon people's training opportunities. And we know that across the board, probably people have lost 50% of their social activity in terms of training opportunities. So that's makes it really tough. As you said, there's a whole host of issues or recommendations that really will look to improve that. One of the things that's recognised in the report is the loss of the traditional firm structure, which provided a degree of support. I think there's probably less peer support than there might have been at one time, with changes in working patterns, with more shift work, and probably that people are much busier in the workplace when they're working, much less time to spend talking to colleagues and bouncing ideas off them, and that sort of peer support that used to be very common when I was in training. So we do recognise that it's tough, and we know there's a whole number of things that we need to address. You mentioned the Parents in Surgery, which I think is particularly pertinent. It is the flagship project. It is designed to cut across gender, sexuality, and therefore is pertinent to a wide range of our members and fellows who are either our parents or are aspiring parents. And often people start a family at a time that's particularly difficult in terms of where they are in their career progression, at a time when they may be moving around, they may have a partner who is also moving around, and the demands therefore are really very difficult. We recognise that and want to give as much support as we can. And that's why that particular project has been identified as the flagship project. We think that's very, very important.
Absolutely. And I think earlier today, Tim, we were talking also about not only recovery of surgery, but also recovery of training, which is very important to the college, and that the two go hand in hand, and we make sure that we do catch up with what the pandemic has left behind. So we've also talked about research, education, training courses, and how to engage more with members. So there are lots of positives coming out of this, and it can only get better.
Thank you. I was about to start talking with my mute on. Sorry, I was about to do the cardinal sin of being on mute. And this is about my 70th webinar. I would hope that by now I knew how to use the technology. So sorry about that. So we've got a couple of people asking about how they can get involved, which is great, and we will be sharing some of that after the event. But is there any, I mean, comes to mind is the Parents in Surgery. We're actively recruiting for people to be involved with the Parents in Surgery group, but is there other opportunities for people to get involved with projects?
Well, can I just say that we are very keen to engage with everybody who wishes to get involved, and that's the whole issue around trying to create this sense of belonging, so that if you want to get involved, we want to hear from you, and we'll do everything we can to involve you where it's appropriate. So the point of contact that we've created is the email address diversity@rcseng.ac.uk. So if you want to get involved, if you've got any ideas, any comments, whether they be positive, negative, whatever you want to say to us, then please do use that email address to communicate with us, and we'll get back in contact with you. And we've had a very large number of people who've been in contact through that. So I would definitely encourage people to get involved. And we want to hear your views at the very least, so please do that.
Thank you.
Can I add to that, Tim? What do you think about also getting in touch with regional reps and with the speciality organisation reps as well for the Royal College? There are lots of ways of getting in touch and getting involved. What are your thoughts of the regional rep engagement?
Yeah, very much so. And we have a well-developed regional structure, so that within every surgical specialty, we have a regional specialty professional advisor. We have surgical tutors in every hospital. And so those are people who can help to support people, or at least signpost them to support that they might need. So yes, please do make use of those people as well. We're very keen that people should do that. And we have a network of regional directors, one in each region and in the devolved nations, who are there to support that process.
Thank you. I'm trying to add things into the chat as we go, but we will send a full list of sort of resources and a few links to the website to sort of point people in the right direction for a lot of these resources, so that you don't have to write them down. It's fine. We'll share links later. So we've had a few questions on a very similar theme. So to our audience, forgive me, I'm about to merge a few questions together just so that we can address as many concerns as possible. What can the college as an organisation and as a professional body do to help re-educate our own members and fellows, and arguably people who are not our members and fellows, regarding sort of the microaggressions that are potentially putting off a lot of the future workplace or creating sort of holes in the pipeline as people feel like they don't want to continue on the route that they've started? What sort of things can we do to make surgery basically just a little bit more welcoming?
Nuha, would you like to take that first?
I mean, it's interesting the use of the word microaggressions, because actually not every issue is an overt one. It could be a joke that's not really funny. It could be anything really, as as an example of what microaggressions are. And I think some people are just not aware that their actions are actually causing upset or causing problems for that specific person in that area. And I think just making people aware, educating, at the end of the day, everybody's personality is different, and some people are affected more by negative comments and by microaggressions compared to others. And in order to gain the resilience, you have to have that sense of belonging, and you have to feel that an equal in that theatre or in that clinic or in that playing field. So educating others that perhaps some jokes are just not funny, some comments are inappropriate in the presence of people from less represented or underrepresented groups. So education first, and then after that calling it out and just saying, second time, third time, not really funny, shall we try a different joke? Or just going to a mentor or going to someone else and seeking for that advice and saying, I'm experiencing this, and it's whether it's affecting your work or not, don't let it affect your work. Handle it early on, and make sure that you surround yourself with positive people. We can't always work with people who are going to be our best friends forever, but we can be collegiate. And always surround yourselves with positive people who will provide you with that support network, who then you can progress with your career. And at the end of the day, even if there's bullying or harassment, the bully is the weaker person. So I like to empower people and make them feel this, that their worth is something that's is important. Whether they're colleagues or trainees or nursing staff or anyone in the surgical field or in the work or outside work. Microaggressions do exist. We have to acknowledge that, and we have to realize that once a word is said, it no longer belongs to us. So the effect on the other person is what we need to deal with. What's your experience, Tim?
Well, I agree with that entirely. I think not only is it about individuals finding allies for themselves, I think it's about all of us being allies for others as well. And it's about changing the culture and making sure that the surgery is a welcoming environment, and where we see behaviours that are not as they should be, that they're challenged and called out. And we have to be honest and say that we probably won't be able to change the culture overnight, because that's not the nature of culture, but we can push in the same direction. And I think it's very important that we don't ignore those issues around us when we see bad things happening. And I think for those of us who have educational responsibility, for instance, it's important that we ask our trainees that we're supervising whether they have any issues, any problems, so that we give them the opportunity to raise any issues that they might have, and be supported, not only for those in training, but of course also for our colleagues. And I think by doing that, we will change the culture, but it will take time. We have to accept that, but it's important that we all move together in the right direction.
Absolutely.
To again unmute. So we've getting a lot of questions about the SAS elements. So again, forgive me if I just try and bring some of these together. SAS doctors are, there is a large proportion of our SAS colleagues who are from ethnic minorities and are quite often international graduates. And as a group, I think we're aware of the fact that have long faced discrimination and prejudice. What is the college doing to elevate the status of SAS doctors in the eyes of consultants and promote the SAS career, which for many is a very positive career, as I'm sure you're both aware?
Perhaps I'll take that to start with. I mean, first of all, we recognise that SAS surgeons and SAS doctors across all specialties have been undervalued for decades, probably. And it's very important, therefore, one of the key recommendations within the Kennedy report is for us to develop an SAS action plan, which we've started upon. You'll see from the action plan that we've published last month that we recognise that the first thing we have to do is to look at our own processes and systems and make sure that those are in place. But SAS surgeons make up a substantial amount of the workforce. They're doing a huge amount of work for the health service, and it's very important that we support them and make sure that they feel valued and give them the career opportunities that they deserve. We also recognise that they're not a uniform group, that their needs therefore will be different. But it's very important that we develop that strategy to make sure that, as I say, that they feel valued and the huge amount of work they do is recognised. So we've started out on that process. We know that it's quite a long way to go, but we certainly think that's very, very important. Nuha, do you have any comments on that?
No, absolutely. And I think in order to know what people go through, you need a representative from that group. And we certainly have an SAS representative as part of council at the RCS. And it doesn't stop there. It's also about collaboration with other Royal Colleges and looking at the more global issue with regards to SAS doctors in the various surgical subspecialities, but also learning from our non-surgical colleagues, and data is very important. So I think one of the action plans for the SAS doctors is to actually gather data. You know, how many people are in certain positions, how many people drop out, how many people do exams. So data is our weapon in order to find out what the issues are and then try and hopefully resolve those whilst working together with our SAS colleagues. The college is hosting the Academy SAS conference next year. It's most likely to be running in the spring, and this will prove to be very positive, a learning experience for both the college and all attendees. So that's certainly a positive step.
And I'm actually going to chip in here. Feel like I've got something quite useful. So I actually, as an aside from running webinars and other activities, I'm the secretariat support for the SAS forum at the college. And I would encourage people, if you're in that group, we are actively looking for members to join the forum, and we are going to start recruiting again for the forum very soon. So do keep an eye out, because a good way to get involved in the change is to join the forum and add your voice into the sort of directly into the college governance. And as Nuha mentioned, the chair of that committee has an invited seat on council, so she does get to really be in the heart of the discussions and contribute and represent on your behalf. So please do look out for that, and I would encourage you to put yourself forward and throw your sort of hat in to the proverbial ring. And yeah, it's a good group, but we know there's still work to do. So thanks. And now I'm going to look for the next question. So apologies.
Jane, I might put you on the spot for a minute whilst you're looking for the next question. Seeing that your webinar, you can't control. So with regards to the SAS and interaction with other groups, there are other surgical societies that have SAS representatives, and they might have the experience or some data, some knowledge that perhaps we're still in the data gathering stage. Would you be willing to collaborate with them with your SAS hat on?
Definitely, and actually in our most recent meeting, I mean our most recent meeting is tomorrow, but the last meeting that we had, we did reach out to the surgical associations and ask them to bring their to send their SAS representatives, and we did get some uptake of that. But I would encourage anybody who's got a role in an association, we're very aware of the fact that not all SAS surgeons are members of our college or any college. Quite a lot of them are members of their associations, and we are really keen to engage across the board. And sort of, you know, it's definitely one of those areas of where the more people we can get involved, the more likely we are to succeed, I would say. So yeah, if you are either an SAS rep or you know an SAS rep on an association, please do encourage them to get in touch with the team. They can reach us through the diversity email, they can reach us through the events email, both of which I have sight of. So yeah, please do reach out, and we will do open meetings again for SAS representatives of associations. So thank you. Brilliant. I've managed to select my question at the same time as well, a bit of multitasking. So thank you for hosting the webinar. You're welcome. How does the college hope to convince the surgical community and those currently in leadership positions that diversity is both beneficial but also necessary? Don't mind who takes it.
Well, I'll come first, shall I? I don't think we need any convincing in the leadership of the college. That's the first thing to say. And we are through the process of implementing the report and the action plan and events like this evening. We're trying to get that message out. And I think we recognise that there's a job of work to be done, but it is a gradual process of convincing people that this is the right way to go. And I think the very fact that we've taken these issues on board and we're talking about them is a start of the process. And certainly I've spoken at meetings where the very fact that I've been there to speak about these issues in itself is welcomed and starts the process. So there is work to be done, clearly, and I've said that about a number of issues, but it's about continually pushing in the right direction. And that's how we will change the face of surgery, and we will change the culture. Nuha, your thoughts?
Thanks, Tim. I think there's for me personally, there's a really simple way of thinking of this. You know, we all do what we do because we want to improve patient care, and the patients are always at the center of what we do. And in order to improve practice, you need to attract the talent that is out there in all its diversity. And so the hidden talents are the ones that don't put their, themselves forward, and the underrepresented groups. So in order to have the best people that are out there with all their talents and all their skills and knowledge, etc., you need to bring them in, and we need to have this sense of belonging. So that's what diversity and inclusion is all about, inviting everybody in to have a voice and share their talents and educate us along the way as well. So although we have challenges, it's actually quite easy when you think about it in an inclusive way. It's my philosophy.
I think if I can pick up on your last point, Nuha, I think that point about educating us is very important. I mean, we don't have all the answers to these issues, and we're all learning in different ways. So I think that's really important to acknowledge that. And that's really why we want to hear from people, and why we want to be inclusive, and for you to contact us and give us your feedback. That's very important. Absolutely. I think Corinne also mentioned that we don't stop at the Kennedy 16 points. We go beyond Kennedy, and the BAME groups, LGBT. There are so many other issues that we need to now just open up to and embrace and start to tackle these issues to make sure that everybody feels that sense of belonging. So I think we're heading in the right direction.
Thank you. I've just opened up a can of worms. I'm getting a lot of people sending me the names of their SAS reps, so thank you. No, it's good. We struggle to find them sometimes, and that's part of the challenge. Is, administratively, it's not always that easy to find out who you need to speak to. So thank you, and do keep sending them through, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. More of a comment than a question, really. I hope the initiative to be inclusive is not just part of a seasonal agenda and is followed up with consistent and real life, tangible and visible changes. I think I can speak as a staff member, I really do feel like this is a big game changer for us. It's definitely being, we're working on this across the board. All of our work, every single sort of email upwards has got this running through the heart of it. So as an employee, I definitely am convinced that this is not a seasonal change. It definitely feels like a big change of attitude, but I'd be interested to know your thoughts.
Neha, do you want to go first?
Just totally agree with Jane. I think this is an exciting time, actually. I think we need to congratulate the Kennedy Review and Prof. Mortensen for conducting the review in the Royal College, and the vice presidents and everybody at the college, from staff to council and exec, but also congratulate other people who have started, before the RCS have actually advertised the action plan, or publicized rather the action plan, that people have thought, well, it's time to look in the mirror and time to make these changes, because it's a cultural change. It's much wider, and we're here to learn from each other and collaborate with each other. So it's exciting times, certainly. Yes, of course, there are challenges ahead. There are challenges in most things that we do, but it's a journey of education. It's a journey of improvement and self-progression, self-improvement, as well as improving lives for others, especially in those less represented groups. So I think it's a great time to be alive at the moment.
And I think it's entirely understandable that people might be sceptical about that, and that's inherent in the question, I think. But we intend to be accountable to our members. We have published the action plan last month in response to the report, and we've committed to doing that on a 6-monthly basis. So we will be reporting back on what we've been doing. We are open to hearing from everybody. So if you think that we're missing out on things that we should be doing, or we're not moving things in the direction that we should be, then we want to hear from you, and we're entirely open to that. So I understand the reason for the question, but I think we're very keen to hear from people. We'll be as open as we can, and we will be accountable to our membership.
I think the other thing to add, if I may, is that there's been no knee-jerk reactions to Kennedy. It's been a well thought through action plan with realistic timelines for each one of the projects, with involvement from both staff and council leads and a wider group to make sure that the project is seen through to its fruition. If the action plan was advertised or publicized straight after the review was published, I would be very skeptical as to whether it can be delivered or not. But the fact that it's well thought through and it's detailed is very encouraging. And as Corinne said, that there are going to be 6 monthly reports, and if some parts of the action plan are slower than others, then it's important for that to be highlighted, and for the reason why to be explained, and also frequent updates as to what we're up to at the moment.
Super. Brilliant. My question ready and then I lost it, sorry. Much has been said about women in surgery, which we know has been running for 30 years now, so obviously is a big part of the college sort of work, and the new Parents in Surgery initiative. But are there any plans similarly, I'm not doing very well on my words today, my apologies, similarly support the LGBTQ plus groups of surgeons and trainees? As a group, this has historically faced significant prejudice in surgery, and I think Corinne did acknowledge the fact that the actual Kennedy report acknowledges the fact that there's not a great deal of data or information available about that group, but I will pass it to you guys to talk about our plans.
Well, I think, as we mentioned earlier, that there wasn't specific recommendation around an LGBTQ plus project, but we have committed to that, and we're developing that both through our surgeon and staff groups. And we have a series of podcasts that are available through the website that Ginny Brobrick, one of our examiners and one of the heads of schools, has been leading on. I was involved with one of them, and they're there to listen to, and I hope you may find that useful. We do recognise that it's a very important area that we need to develop, and we have plans in place, which are at an early stage, but we'll be developing that, and you'll hear more about that in due course. Nuha, do you have anything to add to that?
No, just to agree with you, Tim, but also say that this is an internal process as well as external, and we're going through the Globis report at the moment that goes well beyond Kennedy for our staff as well as our then going beyond to our members. So sometimes you have to make the changes within first or run them in parallel. So definitely LGBTQ is one of the next areas to be developed, and we're in the process of developing that working group together as we speak.
And I would actually like to add to that we are, so I'm working with Ginny to put together a small roundtable, and we are hoping to be able to do some more outward facing activities for the LGBTQ+ group. Sort of coming through towards the end of the year and in the spring. So if you, again, I feel like I'm going to create a lot of new mailing lists tonight, but if you are interested and you want to be included in the invitation lists for either the roundtable or potentially for the event next year, please do just drop it into chat, and I will make sure we capture that data and reach out to you when we've got firmer plans, because at the moment they're very much in a sort of infancy, so to speak. On a not unsimilar note, I keep losing questions, find them and lose them. The Parents in Surgery initiative, which we are billing as our sort of flagship initiative as part of the Kennedy action plan, is not really aimed at diversity. Is this the correct initiative to be using as a flagship programme? The argument can be made that this is not about diversity at all, and that it shows the college is not committed to diversity. I told you I would include the hard questions. So. Any thoughts, comments?
Nuha, would you like to take that first?
It's an interesting question, I think, in the sense that parents in surgery come with all the diverse issues. Some of them might be less than full-time training, some of them might be access to childcare, access to training, access to even gaining leadership positions, or even attending a webinar such as this evening's, because of having commitments in the social life, because this, after all, a work-related event as well as social. So I think if I was to reword your question for you, if that's okay, I think the Parents in Surgery flagship is the ideal project to start off with, because it includes all of the diversity that one has. I'm not a parent, but I have friends who are of similar backgrounds who are parents. So you include all of these diversity plus having family and childcare issues. So it comes with lots of complexities, and I think it's the ideal one to start off with. But that's a personal opinion. What do you think, Tim?
Well, I agree with that. And I think it's about being inclusive and welcoming everybody. And we know that, as I touched on earlier, that there's a particular difficulty around the time people are often starting a family. And we recognise, because that's such a difficult part of people's, or time in people's careers, that that's a particular area that needs support. But we're not looking to support just some areas. We want to be as supportive we can to our members and fellows and aspiring surgeons of the future as we can be. And so it's all part and parcel of a package, so I would see it in that way. Are you muted, Jane?
I was doing so well, sorry. Yes, I was muted. Lots of people volunteering to get involved, so I will, for everybody who's pinging me through, if I don't get back to you tonight, we will share the attendee list with both Corinne and Tim and Nuha, so we will be in touch. It might take us a week or so please do bear with us, but please rest assured that we will capture all of these offers for help, and we will be putting you all to good use very soon, I promise. Thank you. We are coming towards time, I'm afraid, and there are still lots of questions coming through, so apologies for those that we didn't get to. I am going to close with something which is hopefully not too difficult a question for either of you, but I am going to ask you both in terms. If we fast forward from tonight and go forward 2 presidential terms, how would you like to see your college then?
Can I go first, ladies and all that jazz? Thank you, Tim. Well, I think 2 presidential terms is a bit too far away for Tim, because he might be the next president. So, 2 presidential terms. I'd like us to actually not be having such a webinar, to be having different kinds of webinars, because we have hopefully well, en route to sort out all these issues, that we no longer have an issue with less diverse groups having a seat at the table, so that we have adequate representation for women in surgery, for BAME groups, for LGBT, for all the people with disability, and I can, there are many groups that are underrepresented. So I'd like to see that the slate of candidates actually for the president and president-elect and council members, I'd like to see that improving, so that we're no longer talking about issues with regards to leadership at the Royal College. So that's the vision. And I still think that we'll still be sorting out new issues as we go along, but it wouldn't be a taboo. People will still be able to talk about them openly, and hopefully we'll be educating ourselves and people along the way. So hopefully we'll achieve what the action plan has stated, plus go beyond that.
Yeah, thanks, Nuha. I mean, what I would like to see is we have a vibrant college which is celebrating diversity in every way, that we are involving as many of our members as possible, and that surgery has become a place that is welcoming to everybody from whatever their background. I think there's a sense in which this process will never stop, because things evolve, societies will evolve, things will change, and we should still continue to be challenged by our members. That's very important. But it's about working together and moving forward. And I think what I would hope is that there'll be a recognition that we've recognised the problem, having commissioned this report and seen what's within it and the recommendations that flow from it, and that people will recognise we've taken it seriously, we've started to deal with those issues, but there will still be issues to deal with at that point. But we will work together and hopefully find that we're in a much better position than we are now, and continue to move forward from there.
Absolutely. Hear, hear.
Indeed.
So Jane, I'm thinking that we might have got to the end of our time now.
We are, and I'm still getting lots of really good questions through. So my apologies to everybody, but I think it does show that this evening's session was definitely needed, and there's lots of very enthusiastic people joining us tonight, which is brilliant to see. And yeah, but I think we are at time.
Keep sending the questions in, and if you wish to get involved, as I said earlier, then please do email into the diversity@rcseng.ac.uk email address. I would like to take the opportunity to thank Nuha and Corinne for their contributions this evening. I certainly enjoyed it, found it very interesting. I'd really like to thank Jane and her team for everything they've done to support us and keep the questions coming through at a rate of knots. And I'd like to thank everybody who's given up the time to watch this evening. I hope you found it interesting. If your friends and colleagues couldn't make it, then do point them towards the college website, where they'll be able to pick up this webinar in due course. And we look forward to having further contact with you in due course. So thank you very much, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.